Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I'm joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart and host of an older gay guy show, Joey Hernandez. And today we are talking about celebrating all expressions of sexiness. Because you are sexy, I am sexy, we are all sexy. It is just a matter of allowing ourselves to see it.
Absolutely.
Let's get started. Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv. At Himeros Live, we love porn, but porn doesn't teach you about pleasure, connection, or sexual exploration. Until now, Himeros.tv takes everything that you love about porn and elevates it to a whole new level by working with a talented team of sex experts to design videos that help you have better gay sex. Himeros.tv is the world's largest collection of sexually ecstatic videos with authentic man-on-man action. You'll get off and get inspired. Join the revolution and save 20% at himeros.tv/pod. Himeros.tv. It's like porn,
but better.
Hey guys.
Hey there.
A very special welcome to you, Joey Hernandez, for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So for those of you who might not know Joey, he's the host of the acclaimed LGBTQ podcast, an older gay guy show now in its 4th season, with a corresponding YouTube channel of the same name that I was checking out earlier today. Both of them are really aimed specifically for the over 40 gay community, aka everyone that I'm friends with in Palm Springs. And Joey has been a personal trainer for 35 years, and he now brings together his passion for bodybuilding, nutrition, and healthy aging with some erotic, true-to-life stories that keep listeners engaged and amused. Joey is a proud 61-year-old gay man, and for those of you who are watching the video version of this, you can see a whole assortment and array of bodybuilders behind you that are for some eye candy.
I need entertainment when I'm sitting in my office, yes.
Yeah, how do you get any work done? I feel like I just jerk off all day.
Pretty much, I do that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you need to jerk off to be able to focus on the work you need to do.
Sure, I'll tell myself that. Sure. Yep.
That's totally true.
By the way, I was just joking about my Palm Springs friends all being over 40, but I was reading an article earlier this week that someone sent me about how the demographic in Palm Springs is changing. That because, especially for California, I mean, Finn, you're in San Francisco where the rent is like astronomical. Palm Springs is really like an affordable alternative to Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco. So it's attracting a younger demographic of 30 and 40 something year olds that are moving there, which in Palm Springs are twinks.
I've been to Palm Springs probably a dozen times or so. It's one of my favorite places to go. And it's awesome because it's just like a 3-hour drive to LA, I guess, normally. And you've got all these beautiful hiking trails and mountains. You've got the national park that's right near there. Is it 29 Palms?
Yeah,
no, that's a town. That's a town.
Military base.
Right. A beautiful area.
Yeah. Where do you usually stay when you go, Joey?
I was staying at a place, I can't remember the name, but I remember it was built specifically for a 1960s movie. It was one of those beach blanket bingo kind of things. Okay. And they actually built it as a set, and then they turned it into a regular hotel. And it's primarily gay. A lot of lesbians will go during the golf tournament time, and a lot of gay guys all the time. I can't remember the name of it though, because all those names, desert and springs and
it's some combination
it's all
of that
together. Yeah.
Desert, spring, is summer. It'll say the words or sunrise in it or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Was it? It wasn't clothing optional then?
It was not. No, okay. Because it wasn't completely enclosed.
Yeah. I like the clothing optional resorts personally.
And you take the option normally, yes?
I actually generally stay clothed. I'm just always afraid that someone's going to like snap a picture of me and like post it on Twitter. And it's going to be when I'm getting out of like the cold water and my balls are going to be shriveled. And then like it's
right.
This is the price to pay, of being so famous.
So famous. Absolutely.
I'm just joking. But I do think about that, which is pretty sad. Well, I do think about that.
Well, yeah. And people are kind of ruthless out there.
You never know. Finn, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. A little tired today. I had an event last night that I hosted, and I didn't get in bed till later, but I'm feeling really great. We had an event for guys in recovery. Yeah, like a managing sexual anxieties with mindfulness tools because they're in recovery and have a community built around sobriety. So it was really I haven't really done a group like that before, specifically for men in recovery, and I loved it. So
was it something that like is meeting regularly that's organized that you plugged into, or did you organize it yourself?
No, I organized it myself. I mean, I actually do events called Love and Lust all the time, and I just actually specialize this particular workshop for those men and that niche. So, but a lot of them meet for their 12-step program together anyway. So a lot of them knew each other.
Cool.
Yeah, like 20 men in there. Most of them probably knew each other.
And you have an event coming up as well.
Yeah, actually, you said the Tantra Festival.
Yeah.
In August, the 5th through the 12th. So I'm going to be in Easton Mountain teaching at Tantra Festival alongside Jason Tantra, and I am really excited about that. Also, a little nervous because it's stepping out a little bit more into Tantra, and I haven't really pushed myself in that category, even though I use Tantra for my own self and I draw from it and resources. I'm standing behind it in a festival, and that feels a little nervy. Yeah.
Joey, have you ever attended like a Tantra retreat or anything like that?
I have not. I've gone on like general meditation kind of things.
Yeah.
But nothing that was in any way tied sexually. And I don't even think any particular gay things. I think it's just been meditation retreats in general. There's some gay guys there, but there's a lot of older women as well. And that kind of thing.
You're in the Northeast, like I am right now, and Easton Mountain, what Finn's talking about, is near Albany, so it's not particularly far from us. And then Frog Meadow in Vermont also hosts a lot of Tantra events. I've never, I mean, other than the stuff we filmed, I've never gone to one either. But is it something that you're like curious about, like, or does it feel a little inaccessible?
I would be interested in going to that kind of thing. I had read up, I think, on the one in Vermont a little bit. The clothing thing, I think, I don't know, it reminds me of a Golden Girls episode when they accidentally ended up at a nudist colony. You know, it took them a while to build up the nerve to do it, and then they did it. And actually, it was humorous. But the same thing with me. I think it would take me a little while, but once I see it all happening, I'm sure I would go into it.
Well, someone much wiser than myself once told me that is called overcoming ambivalence. Is that the correct term, Finn?
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't actually come up with that either. That was Jack Moran.
Overturning ambivalence. Overcoming?
Yeah, overturning. Yeah.
It's that moment where you're like, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Fuck it. I'm going to do it.
You just plunge in. Yeah.
Overturning the conflict. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, but what you're describing, that fear too, that everyone feels that. I feel that as an instructor. I'm going to have to get like naked and like, demonstrate with my partner. And there's ways to hold people in that process. Cause in a hookup, it's a little more faster. You're jumping over some of those little vulnerable points, and in a group like that, where everybody's just with each other and with their discomfort, it takes a slower and process to get everybody comfortable with that space. But once everybody is open, it's really magical, I think, because you just kind of drop all the shit and you can connect with a lot of men. And I've heard that so much from men. They're like, well, I was really, really nervous. And then once I got over that, it was just this awesome, awesome experience. And I just had no burden of that worry.
Growing up in the gym culture, I'm used to gang showers and walking around in the locker room completely naked. I've never had a problem with that. Right. Seems younger people these days now kind of do the towel around them and trying to pull their underwear up under the towel. But, back in the 90s and in the 80s, people just walked around fucking bare-assed. It didn't matter. Right. But when you go into a situation like that where it is all gay men, it's outside a lot of the time, and you're just kind of putting yourself out there. I don't know. It would take a little bit for me to dive in, but like anything, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. You just got to do it if you want to do it.
Is
Right,
there a
yeah,
website, Finn, that people can go to get tickets for this?
There are, yeah, actually, I was going to say, and to your point, Joey, yes, it's true. It just takes a little time. But if you want to check more about this out, you can link from my site, findyourheart.com, go to the events section, and then there's a link there where it will take you to where you can buy tickets and read more about the event on Jason Tantra's site. And actually, if you book before the 6th of August, you can also get a Speaking Your Desires video that features Davey and the amazing Chris Harder.
And just to manage expectations there.
Managing what do you mean?
It's not a full like frontal-esque video, but it is really sexy and hot and fun.
It really is. It was one of the very first videos I saw of Himeros TV, actually.
Yeah. Chris
And I loved it.
Yeah.
He does. But I also really I just enjoyed the authenticity of that video. It was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. It was because the model, that was like when we were first starting out, and the model like canceled last minute, and we needed someone else to do it. So I was the stand-in. So that covers it professionally, Finn. What's going on in your life? But personally, are there any, could I say developments? Anything that happened last week that you wanted to share?
I love you. I love the leading questions. It sounds like rather than allowing me to just bring it up, it's like, do you want to tell us what you did? You want to tell us? Sore?
Does your hole hurt?
Yeah, my butt does hurt a little bit. No, I've been practicing for this Tantra retreat actually, and my partner and I practice a lot of different stuff, but we wanted to practice with other men so that we could get the experience of coaching while the other one was working with someone else. So we invited one of our really good friends over, and it was really awesome. I actually felt really awkward at first because I've had sex with this guy quite a bit, and especially a few years back we were buddies that hooked up a lot, and I haven't really actually been in a really vulnerable kind of space with him like this. And so it just highlighted that, where I was like, wow, this is actually very different. And this is what we're asking other men to do with each other. And with my partner, it just feels like second nature to be really vulnerable and open. But having him over, suddenly it was like blending the world of like what me and my partner do with each other. Also with this guy that I had like hookup sex with. So it was fun though. I actually, once the awkwardness kind of went away, we stayed pretty close to the program for a while, but it ended up not being very focused around our program. We just ended up having sex, and it was really hot. I got split roasted. I always love that, so that was fun. And I mean, honestly, when you think about Tantra, I mean, it's not like, there's Tantra is this one kind of. I mean, it's really just about cultivating awareness through one's desire, so I really was actually learning a lot about myself through that experience, and it was pretty awesome
while being split roasted. So
yes,
dick at both ends.
Yeah,
that's living.
Yes, it's magnetizing.
Joey, I apologize for not knowing this. Are you in a relationship? Is there a significant other?
Yes, and I'm glad that we're going to be talking about intergenerational because my husband, I'm married now. My husband is 21 years younger than I am. So my husband currently is 38. I am currently 61. Can't wait till he's in the 40s at least, and I'll be in the 60s. But when you hear 30s and 60s, you go, whoa. But yeah, we've been together 7 years. We've been married for 5 of them. And yeah, it's great. I'm happy. I never thought, at age 54, I thought, it's time to pack it in. I'm probably not going to have a lifelong relationship, but here it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way now, like after breaking up with my boyfriend a couple weeks ago. I'm like, well, I guess that was it for me.
And you just turned 36, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I heard from another podcast. Okay.
Yeah. There's more to come, I guess.
There's plenty more to come.
So we're going to talk more about. So let's put a little pin in that. I'm going to ask you some more about your relationship and the intergenerational aspect of it. But before we get into it, I do want to mention that I went on a date this week. Speaking of speaking of throwing in the towel, I did go on a date this week, and I couldn't help but text a video to Finn because the person that I went on a date with, first of all, he gives me the address that I'm supposed to meet him at, and I type it into my phone, and it's a church, like a big old church. Not the place where I typically think I'm gonna like, meet a potential partner of any sort. And so I asked him. It turns out he's part of the like the music program that's at the church, and he actually lives inside the cathedral. So it was like, it's like the choir director, him, and then me, the porn producer, which is like I think that was a Disney movie at some point, right? I think I vaguely remember that growing up. And I made a joke about like, I just assumed that it wasn't a particularly pro-gay church or that he was closeted, and that's not at all the case. Like, he's totally out. Like, I thought I was going to walk through the front door and like my jock strap would just like go up in flames and burn, or my butt plug would like catch on fire as I went through the door. Which I'm just kidding. I wasn't wearing a butt plug. I was wearing two. Anyway, so he gave me a tour of the church, and while he was doing it, I didn't want to be the person that would be like, "Oh, can you like play the organ for me?" But I was, and he did, and so I filmed it for Finn and sent it. And it was this old like Gothic cathedral. It was so cool having this like personal, organ concert. It was really fun. And I was explaining to him that in the shoot that we did for Himeros TV in Sweden, we explored the 4 cornerstones of eroticism, and I was explaining that the second cornerstone is violation of prohibition, which is doing stuff that's really taboo. And he was like, I don't really understand, like, what's an example? And I was like, well, for example, it could be like fucking in a church. And he just went like ghost white, like, is that why you're here? Like, is that what you want from me?
Yes.
Yes.
So we didn't have sex in the church or otherwise, but it was really good for me, I guess, to get out of this cave and connect with someone. And I couldn't help but think, we've been looking for a church to film in. This is not that church.
So is there going to be a follow-up date with this guy? Or
I think there'd be a follow-up friendship. Like, I think it was really fun to spend time with him. Yeah, I wasn't feeling like huge fireworks, but he was really, really sweet and fun and super talented. So
nice.
You didn't get baptized.
Yeah, no, I wasn't on my knees, didn't get baptized, wasn't doing any worshiping.
Well, did you feel any kind of turn on while you're in there?
In the church, I didn't. I just felt nervous, which could have turned into eroticism for me, I think, if it went there. I know for you, Finn, that's like super triggering a church.
I just love it. Yeah, because it brings up my sneaky parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Used to whack off at church all the time. I mean, that was how I managed the boredom factor when I was younger.
Yeah. Last but not least, I did also decide this week that I'm going to take a last-minute vacation before summer's over, because it's like, I mean, especially Joey right now in the Northeast, it's like once we hit August, we're on the back half of summer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, before we know it, we're going to be shoveling snow again. So I was trying to figure out what I could do to do a little escape. So I booked this last-minute trip to London, August 23rd through 28th. So if any podcast listeners, or if you guys have any recommendations of things to do in London, please let me know. I'm staying at 2 hotels. The first one's kind of just a basic hotel, but the second one's this like really fancy hotel that I used points to purchase. I would never use actual money to stay there, but it's called the Goring Hotel, which is this like super posh place. So it'll be really fun, and I'm just going by myself. And anyway, if you guys have any suggestions, let me know or email them. All right. We have a little bit of housekeeping. We posted 2 YouTube videos this week. It's funny because we were just talking about nudity. The first video I posted on my main channel is an interview with the gay nudist. And there's obviously some sort of theme emerging today in our content, but I asked the guy about kind of nudist philosophy and like what happens when you get a boner and you're at a nudist event, which was a concern of mine. Spoiler alert, nothing happens. No one really gives a shit. We talked about body image. It sounds like, Joey, you haven't been to like a nudist-y type event or like situation.
No, not unless like underneath the deck of the boat slip in Provincetown counts, but I don't think that's what we're going for. No, I've never been actually to anything that would be advertised and considered to be nudist. No,
Yeah.
not even a nude beach. And I've been many places where they've had them. I don't know. I've just never gone.
Well, and I think what we were hitting on earlier about like going to Palm Springs to a clothing optional hotel, like to me, that's not nudism so much as that's more being naked. Like from what I understood in the interview, nudism is this philosophy of non-judgment. It's about accepting yourself. It's accepting other people. He was saying if you go to a nudist event, like I promise you, there'll be someone older than you, someone younger than you, someone bigger than you, someone smaller than you. Like it's all okay. And when I'm at clothing optional resorts, say in Palm Springs, it is not a non-judgmental environment. Like guys are very friendly, but it is about like there is a lot of sizing up that happens. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's hierarchy.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like, men creating a social strata based on who's got the best body and like in-group, out-group dynamics, just like anything, any kind of group. But it's happening over whose body is best rather than like other forms. Like people do that over like money or religion or anything.
Yeah. It makes me wonder though, if you could really have a nudist event that's gay and have it not have that hierarchy. Like, could you really just have a fully like inclusive, accepting, naked nudist event with gay men?
I think so. I think there are a lot of gay men that feel.
You give us too much credit.
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, again, maybe it's where I'm at in location. I mean, there are beaches here that are that way. There are beaches in San Francisco that are very much about comparison, I think, and like who's the hottest. But there's also beaches that are not, and that are really open, and even that are like mixed gender and gay men walking around in front of other like women and other people too. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of open.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, but that's kind of like a mixed environment. I feel like if there's like part of the reason why women aren't allowed at these clothing optional resorts is because it kills the vibe of it being sex.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a place in San Francisco called Archimedes Banya, which is just a bathhouse type environment with like steam, and it's nude, and it is women and men, and it does squelch the sex, but it's like a really open, relaxed environment, like nobody. And there's a lot of gay guys there, but there's definitely not like a sex vibe.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage people that are interested to check out this YouTube video. It's on my main channel, and we also posted a second video this week featuring Finn and I, where we were talking about suicide among porn stars, and we know that gay men are disproportionately affected by suicide, but it seems like, and I don't have data on this, it's just kind of my experience. It seems like that impact is further amplified by people that are working in the adult industry. And Finn, I would love to for you to share a little bit about like why you think that might be, especially with your experience and kind of working with porn stars.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm directly from their mouths. They're having this experience of, I mean, it's kind of a mind fuck, I think, and I'm editorializing it right now. But what they're experiencing a lot of is an amount of validation and an excitement about having a persona that maybe at one point in time they were really into and enjoying, and it's parts of themselves that they're aspecting here out in the public, and it becomes this thing that kind of at some point becomes them. and then it's like carrying all this, like, other people's idea. I mean, I've had guys tell me like how it's like people are touching them, grabbing them on the train, even after they say no 2 or 3 times, like still grabbing them, reaching their hands in their pants and stuff, where it's, it's like they become just this image to people. And just like around, desire too, it's like this pressure to be a certain way all the time. So where once that might have actually felt like exciting, then it starts to feel like this burden where it's like, God, I'm so sexed out. I don't want to even, I can't even like get turned on right now, but I have to be this anyway. So it kind of puts like a split in them in a way. I think it just reflects the splits anyway. And are we having sex that's connected, or are we having like, it's like this sex that's like trying to be the image of sex, quote unquote, I love
sex
work though.
If sex becomes like this thing that you do for work and that people want from you, and you just give, like you can understand how when you get home with your partner, or to like even think about hooking up, it's just like, like more of this commodity that like more of this thing that I've now made into a commodity in my life.
Right. And the difference between like being vulnerable and just connecting, again, like for like a tantric lens, it's like, what are my feelings? What am I motivated to do based on the feelings that I have? Letting my body create sex based on this emotional information in me, versus like having sex based on like, what does my body look like? What does my body look like with your body? Do our bodies match up? Are we like, it's a lot of mental stress around that versus just like, God, this feels really good. I deserve this.
Joey, I'm curious about your relationship with like porn, and like, because Finn and I are very plugged into this world. Like I'm producing this content, Finn is supporting the models, writing content. For you, like you mentioned to me that you love porn, and
I love porn. I grew up, in the 70s and 80s. Once VHS tapes came out, oh my God, it was like a new world. But now because I've been exposed to so much of porn, the ones that are normally filmed where you have, people that are made up and nice lighting and all of that, and they try to have like a little story where, the pizza boy's knocking on the door to deliver a pizza. And then once they start kissing, like once they get past that little acting part, to me, it's always like, okay, here it goes. Kiss, kiss, suck, suck, fuck, fuck, boom. Okay, I know it. And so I get bored with that. What I'm watching these days is a lot of amateur stuff. Stuff that is almost like you're peeping in someone's window and seeing something that you shouldn't. And I will edge myself and watch porn. This is no lie. It's embarrassing, but no lie, for like 4 hours if I get myself into it. To the point that when I stand up from my office desk, my legs are kind of frozen and I have to like work the muscles to be able to move because I've been pinned in this one position. I just love it, but it takes more and more stimulation for me because I watch so much porn.
That's why Tumblr was so great. It was so like, amateur. I think it's actually like that thing that we like in those videos, the amateur stuff, is actually like the authenticity. When I watch a lot of porn, I'm thinking like, these guys don't actually have a connection. Like they don't actually want to be there. Like this is all staged. They had to shoot this angle 3 times. Like when I see a close up of their cum faces, I know that was filmed later. Like, and I think what's the challenge for us has been, can you produce content but still have some of that like special sauce that you're describing, that realness? I think that's kind of the area that we try to stumble into. It's funny though, because like I think the general public is very accustomed to objectifying porn models, and we're not necessarily accustomed to thinking about them as human. And then when we do see them as human, it then becomes hard to objectify them. So when I look at porn, when I see a lot of the models that we work with like pop up on Pornhub, I just get this like uncomfortable feeling about like, well, I don't know if I can jerk off to that video when I go on to the next. I don't know. It's doing this work has definitely changed how I view porn. So,
but obviously you still like porn, or you wouldn't be doing what you do for a living. I think the way that you're approaching it is like a totally new way to do porn. It's more, it's not just the images, it's not just getting excited by what you're watching, but by hearing and learning the things that are talked about in those videos. I think it's amazing. And I think that's going to be like a whole new offshoot. You probably have planted the seed. Probably people are going to start copying you, but you're the original in this. I think it's great. I loved watching the videos I watched.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would say what he's saying. I think so too. I think, and I don't just say this to try to elevate it in my own mind, but I think that, there's always been this big debate between like, what's porn and what's art? I mean, that is a century old discussion and dialectic. And I think the reason I think it is like erotic art that we're making is even because it just raises all these questions, like what is porn really? Because we're actually also using explicit sexual content to intersect with other people's like our desire, our assumptions in the public, like just all kinds of stuff to make people think and question, and it's making statements, and it's also like really sexy. So it raises questions in my mind. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but I think it's a lot of different stuff rolled into one.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch because it's in a sexy porn. Like you can get your perspectives challenged while also like totally getting hard on.
Exactly.
So this YouTube video though that we posted, it's on my second channel. So we talked about suicide in porn and why that might be. When I posted it, there were a lot of responses. Some really lacked compassion, not surprisingly. Others were really thoughtful, and I think in general people get it. But so when I posted it though on Twitter, it was interesting. One porn star that I've filmed a YouTube video with, Teddy Bear, he responded on Twitter, and I think this is, I don't say this to call him out. I think this is kind of a representative of the way a lot of people believe and how they view porn. But he said, gay porn has nothing to do with suicide. Being gay does, however. And the only reason why people feel there's a connection is because porn stars are on a platform seen around the world. I've had a lot of friends with 9-to-5 jobs that commit suicide. The job wasn't blamed. So he's saying that we only think that there's more gay porn stars that are taking their lives because those people are in a prominent position. So it feels like that effect is amplified when in fact it's not. And I get what he's saying. I disagree with it though, because I think most 9-to-5 jobs don't require a person to carry a shadow in the way that we're asking porn stars to carry it. And most 9-to-5 jobs don't receive, criticism from the internet and otherwise and shaming in the way that porn stars do. I think there's something very specific about their job. And I think it's easy to say, well, yeah, well, it's just like any other job. And in fact, like that ignores some really big differences. So we used this YouTube video to announce, as I mentioned before, that we launched an aftercare program. So for folks that work with Himeros.tv, for the models, they get 5 sessions with Finn afterwards to kind of process. And anyway, it's for us, it's an important step in creating conscious porn, or it's like if you're consuming porn, you want to know that it's made in a way that adheres to your values. And so for us, it's a way to do that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's making space to have. I mean, it's more complex. Like what this guy wrote in. I mean, it's like things aren't in these little nice, tidy little boxes with life, and we're just making space for more of the conversation to be there. And that is the thing. When I'm talking with the models, I'm getting so much where it's like, well, oh my God, they do need and want support, and they're saying that verbatim. So, yeah, I don't think there's a question about that.
Yeah, and I would hope that, like, in the way that consumers demand, like, the workers that they interact with to get, paid a fair wage, $15 an hour, like the expectations we have of the food we eat for it to be organic. Like, I hope that there's I hope that this works on every end, that like consumers demand from studios fair and compassionate treatment for models. And I hope that models demand it from studios, and that we can all kind of raise the bar and this is our small step in trying to make that happen.
But don't you think that kind of fake it till you make it kind of attitude a lot of people have, no matter what their positions are? Most people, I think, are in positions. What is that rule where you ascend just to the level of your incompetence or something because you keep trying to get more and more? And I think, you might go to an office party and your boss, who's always, straight faced and very serious, gets drunk and acts like an ass. That person's now taking off the mask that they have. And I think, gays in the military, they must certainly feel like they have to project a certain way. Gay police people, gay clergy, all of that. I think a lot of times people feel like they're pressured to have this mask on, and it's very hard for them to take it off. So I think the suicide issue is related to more to being gay than any specific kind of job or position that you have.
I think, are you talking to me or Dave or both? I guess
Both.
Yeah, so I would just say, I think suicide, I think I've heard that 5 times more likely. It is gay people in general but what I'm saying is that around their job, it amplifies the effects of some of the same wounding that all gay people experience. And it touches people's just general attitudes about sex. Because gay sex is like the anathema of the American public, and the entire, political platform, it seems to be like this black eye to American, a lot of people mind, and gay people are carrying that. So yeah, there's a lot of rejection and shame and humiliation and disenfranchisement, and our families aren't behind us. And so these men are already dealing with that, just like all of us. And then they are also, in addition, put into this industry where they're magnifying the stuff that comes up around sex and around connection and body shame, and the ways that men try to overcome all those wounds with perfecting their bodies and, having the perfect body, the perfect dick, and all the approval. So that's kind of how I look at it, what's going on. And plus a lack of just support and connection from people over the parts of them that are more tender and more to them than just what they have to offer in a consumer kind of way.
Yeah, I'd encourage folks to, if they're interested in this, to learn more, they could check out that video. It's on my second YouTube channel, Davey Wavey Raw. Of course, you can write in with any questions or comments, and we're happy to tackle them as well. But yeah, it's an important conversation to have. We need to chat about this week's video, which is titled Around the Fire. You guys can watch a free preview on Himeros.tv. This video features 1, 2, 3 generations of gay men engage in a ritualistic circle jerk led by Dr. Jalen Ricks, and it includes porn stars Pierce Paris, Dalton Briggs, Hunter Graham, and Remy Cruz. It's basically guys ages, 20 to 70 or so, and most of the non-porn stars are from, if I'm not mistaken, a masturbation group in Southern California, or a couple different groups. So, and yes, that is the thing, masturbation groups. They call themselves baiters, BATORS. So Dr. Jalen does some sort of invocation at the beginning, and then the guys start jerking off. I think we filmed it maybe for an hour and a half. Some guys came, some didn't. The guys are all different shapes and sizes. And there was also something very primal, I think, about the whole thing. Some of it is probably the music. There's this drum beat playing in the background that's building up. They're also around a fire, but just the grunts, the skin, the flesh, it almost felt like something out of National Geographic that you're watching. Right. Finn was with me. Go ahead, Joey.
It's so great to see that age range all together. And as you watch the video, you see, guys aren't closing their eyes trying to be somewhere else or be with someone else. They're looking at each of these people, and they're different shapes, they're different sizes, big dicks, some on the smaller side dicks, but all together and all getting turned on by each other. I think that's great. Incredible.
Well, and the older guys, I mean, they're also part of these beta groups, so they have some experience in this, but also have more life experience in general. And they were really like the eye contact that they were making, I think really kind of set the tone. I think some of the younger guys, the porn stars, were a little bit more apprehensive about it. And we set some ground rules, which was no touching. So the guys weren't supposed to be like interacting with each other in any way. We wanted to make especially the porn stars feel safe. I'm just very aware of what Finn was describing earlier, people constantly wanting to take from them. And so I didn't want them to have to think that they had to like protect their boundaries and push people away. I just really wanted everyone to be able to be comfortable and present, and feel safe. And Finn, I mean, you were there when we filmed this.
Yeah.
What was it like filming this for you?
Well, there's a lot. Actually, so one level was like, I was really proud actually, because I wrote the concept and I felt really, this one was when we first started working on this project together, this one in particular, this was the first video that came to me, and it was kind of like the seed for the entire 12 videos that we did in Palm Springs. And my background originally was in anthropology, and there are many cultures in which older men helped usher younger men into a level of consciousness. It was like initiation. Sometimes that was sexual in nature, sometimes not. It didn't really matter. But the point was that there was a connection intergenerationally between the men. And I find that in the gay community, it's not held in that way. So when we were on site, getting to see all that come together and the sun was setting, it was really just beautiful to me. And also, like you described, this primal kind of thing coming out, seeing the spectrum of expression from like the younger men all the way to the older men, and seeing what it was like for men who had been in their bodies for longer and had more experience connecting with each other in ways that were not objectification based necessarily. So it represented to me de-objectifying. Like, here it is not about grabbing each other, making each other into any kind of image. It's just about expressing, and seeing how some guys really got that, the older guys, and then the younger guys seemed like they were like, holy fuck, what do we do with this? And then you were hiding behind me too. It was really cool. And I was a little nervous, like, oh, is this all going to come off? Is this going to be okay? And I did notice some of the models having a little bit of a process going on. So I wanted to be supportive, but didn't want to interrupt anything. And just, I was nervous, like, is this going to come off? Because I really want this too. It's really beautiful. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Joey, I mean, you mentioned earlier that like a lot of porn that you see kind of follows a same formula. It's like the guys come into there's maybe some storyline, some setup, and then they kiss, they blow each other, they eat each other's ass, they fuck, they come. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. This definitely doesn't follow that formula. It's also presenting a different group of models than what we would typically see in porn. I guess my question is, like, how did that feel for you? And like, are you personally like invested in seeing models that, are not just in their 20s, but seeing models in their 50s and 60s and so on in porn?
Yeah. I mean, I certainly am attracted to people in their 20s. I think people that say they're not aren't maybe being as honest as they could be. But yes, I love to see the older generation portrayed, as one myself. And if you had just done it with a set of older guys, it would not have had the impact that it did by having younger and older together like it was. I think that really made a difference. And I don't think I can't recall ever seeing that in porn before. And there was just a feeling of brotherhood, of camaraderie. I think because of the way it was filmed, definitely because of that pounding beat. And it was beautifully filmed, but at the same time, it was raw and erotic. And I think that was beautiful.
We've mentioned this before on the podcast, but we surveyed our audience in Himeros TV, and they're not necessarily it's not necessarily the most representative audience. I think it's generally guys that get it or that are tuned into this conversation. But 48% of them said that they want to see models over the age of 50 in our videos. which, like, if that is in any way, shape, or form reflective of the general population, then there is a hugely underserved category of porn that, you know, that we're like, there's a website that I sometimes jerk off to called, I think it's called like menover30.com or something. And even then, like, the models are like 32, you know, and that's like supposed to be like the geriatric,
right?
like,
Oh my God, man.
yeah, over 30. Uh-oh. Like,
oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, how taboo. And I think what we saw in this video is that these guys who have decades and decades and decades of experience, I mean, they just totally, in terms of their expression and their ability to be ecstatic, their eye contact, all that, they just blew these younger guys out of the water. It's not a contest and everyone is where they're at, but it's like, you know, I want to see what these guys are expressing in porn. And the reality is, like, you know, a 19-year-old on 18boys.com might look cute and fun, but like, he's not going to be able to express sexual ecstasy in the way that some of these guys were.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
no shade.
And I think, you know, and I think that this video, the reason I love it so much is because I think it does make this statement. It's like by fiat, you just see it on the people in it, that pleasure, it is what, I mean, we're supposed to be able to feel that in our own bodies. And if it's all about validation and having the perfect body, that eliminates most people. And it's something that we've gotten all wrong, I think, in our culture about like, what is sex? It's this expression. And I actually really love watching how differently each of these older men moves about the space and the way they take up the space. You know, I felt challenged even, you know, like, wow, I feel limited after watching them. So it was inspiring to me too that day, myself.
You know, I'm not surprised about that 48% wanting to see that. You know, there is an untapped market almost in gay things. And that's why I did the podcast I'm doing, which is for older people. And I talk about things like erectile dysfunction that I'm going through, or why can't I put one leg of my pants on now without falling over? You know, I have to sit down to do it. I try to address the things that are happening age-wise, physically, mentally, as well as sexually. And I think there is a huge untapped market. You know, most podcasts are either two gay guys kind of bantering about, or there might be a gay guy and their girl best friend bantering about. My show is just solo primarily. I have a few interviews and I just talk about what's going on in my life. And I want people to kind of more learn from my mistakes than to think that I have any answers for anything. But there is a complete untapped market.
Yeah. And you got to think also the implication of, you know, being in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s or 90s and not seeing yourself represented in porn. That, like, and when you do see porn, you know, it's these guys in their 20s and 30s and they have like rock hard, huge dicks. Like, it just sends a message about this very specific like image of what gay sex is. And like, if you're not seeing yourself reflected in porn, it could make you think that this kind of sex or that sexual ecstasy is not available to you. And I think like seeing hard dicks all the time, you're mentioning erectile dysfunction, sends the message that like, in order to have sex, you need to have a rock hard cock. It ignores the fact that these cocks in porn, we know, are injected with Trimex, that people are taking like doses of Viagra, that all of that is fake. And that even when we film porn with younger guys, like, there are a lot of soft cock moments. We try to include those in our videos. And then sometimes people get really upset by seeing the soft cocks, but it's like, man, that's life. And like, I get that porn's a fantasy, but there's a price to pay when we keep consuming something that so like dramatically disconnects us from who we are and what we are.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see the soft dicks like in the video around the fire, I think that it makes you feel more that you could be a part of that, because most people, when they first start something, they're going to be very nervous, and a hard dick is probably not going to be the first thing that happens. You know, people always think, oh, I can't go to the gym and shower, I'll get a boner. No, you probably won't, because you're so fucking panicked about it. But to be able to see that, especially with the older guys, it's like, oh yeah, you know, if that is in a porn film and people are accepting that, then they would accept me if that happens. And I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it.
Joey, how has your sex evolved? Like as you moved through your 20s, 30s, 40s, and now, you know, and now into your 60s, like how has dating or love or sex, how has that changed for you, like through the decades?
I've always had a problem with long-term relationships. Prior to my husband, pretty much like 6 or 8 months would be the maximum. And I had a shitload of them. I kind of bounced from one to the other. But sexually, it was primarily oral until I was in my, say, mid 40s when I first started fucking. And that's a pretty important part of it now. You know, oral is nice, but I did that for so many years. I prefer to do oral on my husband. He is Mexican. He's uncut, which is like so much of a turn on for me. And, you know, fucking is certainly now part of it, but it wasn't for many. You know, I first started kind of fooling around with guys when I was like 10. And so from 10 to 45, really just oral, sucking each other off.
But beyond, I guess beyond the physical, like how has your relationship with sex or even like body image changed as you've gotten older? Like, are there things that have gotten easier for you as now you go into your 60s? Are there things that are more challenging?
Well, certainly the erectile dysfunction thing really ticks me off. I have a heart condition and I'm on certain medications and it causes some erectile dysfunction. So I'm comfortable with my husband with it because we've talked about it and dealt with it. But if my husband was not in the picture and I was still out dating and I was out hooking up with guys, I think I would be very concerned about that would happen. And of course, if you think, oh my God, what's going to happen? It happens, you know, because it's all psychological. I'm sorry. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, we did a YouTube series like I think a year or two ago called "This Is Me," and we interviewed different guys, different ages, that were like guys that you wouldn't typically see in porn. So like people you wouldn't see in a Calvin Klein ad. And we interviewed this one guy actually in Palm Springs who has like this really big belly, and I was asking him about body image and his relationship with body image. And he said something, I'm not going to quote it as well as he said it, but he said, well, when you're asking me about body image, you're essentially asking me what I think about how other people view my body. And he basically said, he's like, I don't care because I don't need everyone in the world to think that I am hot or that I'm sexy. And like, I just need to find the handful of people that do. And those are the people that I spend my time with erotically. And I remember thinking in that moment, well, no one's ever really said that to me. Like how freeing it is to release the need to seek validation from everyone. Like no matter what you look like, even these, 20-something-year-old porn stars that we film with, like no matter what you look like, you'll never be hot to everyone. Like you will always be too young for some, too old for others, too masculine, too feminine, too muscular, too skinny. Like, and you can just let all of that go because you don't need to be hot for everyone. It's just about being who you are. And it's nice to be hot to some people. Like, and that's who, as my mom says, there's a peg for every hole for every peg. I don't know. I think it's something like that, right?
I think it's nice when you yourself think that you're hot and not care about what anybody else thinks, whether you're in shape or not. If you are, you're very comfortable in your skin, you're very comfortable being who you are and presenting who you are. I think that if you feel like you are attractive, first of all, that attitude, just going out with that. Let me just tell a quick story. I started shaving my head completely bald when I was 25. And the first couple times I went out to a club, I was really so nervous about it. I wore my hat. I didn't want to take it off. I didn't want anybody to see that. And then like by the third time, I'm like, fuck it. And I took my hat off, and I had an attitude of, I really like how I looked with a shaved head. I used to wear a hairpiece, so it was pretty sad. And it was like being this attractive person. Like, people would find me attractive because I had the confidence to feel good about myself. And I think if you're in shape or not in shape, whatever body you have, if it is what you want and you feel you're hot, I think that's what you should aim for. Fuck everybody else.
Amen. All right.
I think.
Go ahead, Finn. Go ahead.
Well, I think to get to that point, because I totally agree with you. It's something, I struggle with body image sometimes too, and have definitely more so even in the past. And I think for everyone, it's like, if that's the only thing on the table that really matters is what our body looks like, then of course the stakes are so high. But the more we like try to find other parts of ourselves that are not just physical to really rely on as our strengths. And that's what I think, that's where it's really challenging for a lot of gay men, because of the disempowerment that they've encountered, to like find something about yourself that you really love besides what your body looks like. And that gives you a sense of confidence. I mean, I feel a lot of erotic confidence in ways that are not indexed to my body now, that I didn't used to feel. So I think there's just like a lot that goes into that, because it's also connected.
So I do want to, this is a great conversation, and I really appreciate it. I do want to get to some of these questions, especially this first one that we have, since it is related to this conversation. Just a reminder, if you folks at home have any questions that you'd like us to discuss, please send them to Davey at daveywavey.tv. All right, question number 1. 2 of your recent posts really hit close to home, one on Catholicism and one on older gays. I have devoted my entire life to the church from my teen years as an organist and choir director, not the person that I went on a date with that I mentioned earlier, and complete adult life as a church secretary and then owner of a Catholic bookstore. Even though I knew I was gay from the age of 4, I have never had sex with anyone because of a little church rule about not having sex before marriage. The worst part, I am now over 80 years old. Only within the past 2 years have I come to the belief that I do not believe in God and have lived a life of unfulfillment of what I am, a gay man. Even at my extreme age, I am trying to change my life. Yes, I am old, have an ugly, out-of-shape body, and am completely innocent and ignorant of how to even have sex with another guy. But I have a goal of becoming fuckable and doing it at least once before I die. Though I live on Social Security and cannot afford a subscription to a site like Himeros, I want you to know how much I appreciate your YouTube presentations and how gorgeous the Himeros promos are. Be impressed. I just told you what I've never shared with anyone. What a comment. So yeah, I did give him a Himeros login, by the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What do you guys think? I know, Joey, you have something you want to say.
When he said that he has led an unfulfilled life and then reference being a gay man, I think at 80, one of the things I like to talk about on my show is giving back to the community. Now, he is thinking, oh, I'd like to hook up with somebody and actually have sex, which is great. And, you know, that can be arranged certainly through rent boys or whatever. You can always manage to do that. But I would encourage the gentleman to get involved in his local gay community as much as possible, because one of the things that people write to me about when they're younger and they listen to my podcast is, you know, there's just no older voices out there telling us about life that we're going to experience. You know, there was the AIDS crisis and everybody talked about that. But all the other issues as you age, there's nobody to mentor us about. And so I would encourage this gentleman to get involved in the local gay community, to give, to be a person that younger people can come up to and ask opinions of. And the sex thing will probably fall into place if you got involved in the community like that. But I always think that when somebody feels like they're isolated, the best thing to do is to try to connect with people with a like goal, some sort of betterment for the community, and all the other things will come because of that.
Mm-hmm. I love that comment. Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add, Finn?
I just think he said it beautifully. I mean, I would describe that what you're saying is like being in community, you know, like having your values held and reflected by other people and in a more holistic kind of way. So I totally agree. If you're sitting at home and again, wanting, you know, the perfect body, which whatever, but being involved and connecting with other people is going to access more resources in yourself, and you're going to meet people for sure.
And I think like just be gentle with yourself. Like, you know, he's 80 years old, and it's easier today to come out when you're, you know, 14 or 15 because of the world we live in. But 80 years ago, it was a different place. And like we all have different paths to discover and accept, and hopefully one day celebrate who we are. Your trajectory, you know, it took the way it did because of the, you know, the world you were in, and the values that you had, and like I think, you know, to offer yourself some compassion. And the line that he wrote of I have a goal of becoming fuckable. To me, it's like, I get what you're saying, but I think part of what our message is, and even the point of this podcast, is that you're fuckable. Like we all are fuckable, and that is our birthright. It's not because of being a certain age or looking a certain way or having a certain musculature. Like you are a human being. Like you are fuckable. You are deserving of love and affection. And I do hope that you experience that. And what Joey was saying, getting involved in the community and letting, you know, younger people learn from your wisdom, it seems that you could also benefit from the wisdom of the community. And you say you're ignorant about how to have sex. Well, there's plenty of people out there that can teach you a thing or two. And I have all the confidence in the world that you can find those people. So thank you for opening up to us with such a personal letter. It's really touching and very sweet. So I think we're just gonna have to save the other questions for another day. You know, next week we are going to be talking about a very exciting video called "Tickle Me Homo," which is a play on "Tickle Me Elmo." I don't know that people realize that, but Finn, where can people find more of you?
FinnDeerhart.com, FINNDERHART.com, and or the Tantra Experience in Easton Mountain.
Nice. And Joey, where can people find more of you?
They can find me at An Older Gay Guy Show. It's a podcast that you can find wherever you are listening now, as well as I have a YouTube channel also called An Older Gay Guy Show. And I do have a second podcast, which is called Jockstrap Stories, where I'm reading from a gay sports novel that I had published. So yes, please find me.
Awesome. Joey, it was really a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really appreciated your voice and your perspective. It was great having you here.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.